You've felt the block. You felt the weight of doors that should have opened long ago, yet they stayed locked, as if an invisible guard kept you from what was rightfully yours. What I bring you now isn't a theory. It's news of a verdict that has been overturned. A judge has released what was held back from you for years, and from this moment on, the flow that was dammed up begins to find its way. What seemed like injustice was, in truth, only a period of waiting that has now reached its end. In this conversation, you'll recognize the clear signs that your season of scarcity has officially closed. You'll understand the pattern of behavior that, without your awareness, kept your energy trapped at doors never meant to open. We'll dive into the root of that weight, the hidden formation that made you accept little as your limit, and I'll deliver a final declaration that will shift how you see your own story from now on. Stay with me, because every layer we peel back reveals what your spirit already knows, but your mind still tried to shield with doubt. You've been living through very specific experiences lately, sudden waves of deep emotion, almost a weeping with no apparent cause, just to clear your field. Conversations with close ones, once your safe harbor, now feel hollow, as if they're speaking a language you no longer need to translate. You've been waking at the same hour, as if a vigil is being kept in your spirit while the world sleeps. And those repeating numbers, those sequences on screens, on signs, on papers, they're no coincidence. Each of these signs is a mark of calibration. The exhaustion you feel isn't the end of your strength, it's the adjustment of your system to bear what's coming. The distance you've started to feel from certain people isn't isolation. It's alignment. You're being prepared to occupy a space where old frequencies can no longer enter. Take a deep breath now. Let this truth find its place in your chest, without rush, without the weight of anxiety to understand it all at once. Feel the steadiness of this revelation. If even one of these signs touched you, if your shoulders dropped at any point in the last few minutes, type the number 777 in the comments. Your fingers typing those numbers are your spirit saying yes to the release the judge has. Attention! You need to prepare yourself now. I have prepared material for those who doubt their own calling from God and still do not have confirmation. Are you one of the chosen? We'll give you that clarity. These are the 7 signs of the language of the calling, marks of God in the story of every chosen one, so you can reread your story and recognize the purpose sealed over you before the foundation of the world. Stop calling coincidence what is actually a calling. Stop silencing the sacred restlessness. Stop postponing the answer you feel. Your window is closing, and a chosen one who does not recognize the calling does not walk in purpose. More than 10,000 people have already read the 7 signs and received the conviction they had been seeking for years. They were just like you. They felt something no one understood. They lived in silent doubt, and they discovered it was real. And it had a name. The offer is open only this month. Access the link in the pinned comment now, before doubt steals another year from your calling. The judge has finally authorized. It's the smallest agreement, but it's a real, concrete one. Type 777 and come back to me. Beneath these signs, there's a mechanism you've operated too long without knowing. The effort of pulling ropes no longer tied to anything. You've spent years trying to push reality, trying to force open paths that destiny hadn't yet cleared. Your diagnosis, if I can call it that, is the exhaustion of someone who tried to master a time that wasn't theirs. You confused loyalty with stubbornness. You stayed firm in places that had already become deserts, hoping loyalty would eventually be repaid with a harvest. But the soil there had been deactivated for you. You showed up for an audience that was never paying attention, wasting a brilliance meant for a completely different stage. The cause of your delay wasn't lack of preparation or lack of merit. It was the insistence on staying where your seed could no longer find nutrients. And the deepest layer beneath all this is the root of that posture, which didn't start with you. You inherited the need for survival from generations that could barely breathe, and that cellular memory made you believe that to have anything, you'd have to fight the entire world. You're like a tree whose roots grew in barren soil, learning to seek water where none exists, believing survival is the only possible state. But the truth is, your root system wasn't made for the desert. It was made for the river. And now, that same river is being redirected to your riverbed. You've been operating under a defense mechanism that once served you but has now become your prison. That pattern of insisting at locked doors is actually a desperate attempt to validate your existence through resistance. You believe that if you knock hard enough, reality will bend to your will. But the truth is, doors that stay locked aren't waiting for your strength. They're waiting for your detour. You've spent energy on false handles while the true path was right behind you, waiting for you to stop looking where nothing is happening. It's a silent pattern, a quiet heaviness where you convince yourself that stopping is giving up, when in truth, stopping is the only movement that allows your vision to adjust. Think of the tree whose roots, finding only rocks and drought, keep deepening in the wrong direction, believing survival depends on continuous struggle against hard ground. You've been that tree. You built your identity on resistance to terrain that doesn't nourish you. The waiting, which seemed like punishment, was actually a long period of silent calibration, so that when the soil changed, you'd be ready to absorb abundance without breaking. Roots forged in scarcity can't simply bloom in plenty without going through a softening process. The reframing here is simple, though deep. Your waiting wasn't lost time. It was the necessary time for your internal structure to become capable of sustaining what's now being delivered. If the image of that tree seeking water where none exists touched the place where you've held your frustration, if you realized your struggle wasn't with the world, but with your own persistence in barren soil, type the words I see in the comments. Let that simple recognition serve as the seal that fixes this truth in your record. The act of typing those words makes the witness permanent within you, turning the pain of waiting into a marker of clarity. Type, and come back to me. Now, the solution that presents itself isn't a task or a new plan of action. The solution is a return to your natural state of rest. It's a softening. Imagine releasing your shoulders, undoing the tension in your jaw, relaxing hands that have been clenched for years, holding on to nothing. Your greatest work now is non-doing. It's allowing. When you stop trying to control the unfolding, you open the space needed for what's yours to reach you without being forced. The stewardship of your life requires you to trust that the river, redirected to its riverbed, already carries everything the seed needs to break the surface. It's not about building, it's about harvesting what's already been planted by Providence while you were too busy trying to survive. Calm your spirit, for excessive effort is just an echo of a security you no longer need to prove to anyone. If any part of this message, any of these passages, touch the deepest place in your consciousness, leaving your soul lighter, let your like be your wordless amen. Not as a metric, not to fuel engagement, but as a silent agreement, a spiritual signature that what was named here was named correctly and found resonance in you. It's a gesture of alignment with the truth now beginning to unfold in your daily life. Take a deep breath, because this movement of recognition doesn't end with you. There's someone in your life who needs exactly this clarity right now. Someone you know who has been silently striving, carrying a weight no one around them can see. Someone whose life seems stuck by invisible forces while exhaustion consumes the light in their eyes. That person's face just appeared in your mind, not by chance, but as a signal. Send this content to them. Don't do it as if sharing a trivial recommendation, but as a necessary delivery, like passing along a breath of hope to someone who feels adrift on the journey. Now, before we move to the close of this moment of revelation, I need you to place yourself in a position of total reception. The judge who delivered what was withheld hasn't just opened the door, he has sealed your new season. To consolidate this understanding, type the words, "I am the chosen one," in the comments. Don't do it as someone with hope or as someone wishing something to happen, but as someone confirming what has already been decreed in the silence of your soul. The agreement formed between your spirit and divine providence is a covenant of trust. As you type, let your fingers do what your being already knows, that the restriction is over and the harvest, delayed for years, is finally authorized to happen. Type slowly. Feel the weight and authority of those words and come back to me, for our journey of return continues. Something happened to you in this moment. Maybe you don't yet have words for it, but something within you shifted, and I came to tell you what it was. You carry a question no one around you could answer, and you've tried harder than those close to you, yet the door hasn't opened. There's a reason, and now you'll hear the answer. Until the end, you'll recognize the signs appearing in your life and what they mean. You'll understand the single pattern that has blocked what you seek. And before it ends, there's a declaration I'll make about your life. The reason this message reached you. You've noticed sudden waves of emotion with no apparent cause. Conversations that once flowed now feel hollow, and there's a silent certainty that something changed, even though nothing visible shifted. You've been waking systematically at 3 in the morning, and certain repeating numbers appear in unrelated places. This isn't a problem. It's calibration. The distance from old friends is alignment, and the hour you wake is an invitation. It's the smallest agreement, but it's real. The pattern you operate is pulling ropes no longer tied to anything. You confuse exhaustion with loyalty, applying the right hunger to the wrong path, showing up for an audience that was never paying attention. Beneath this, there's an ancient formation, like the roots of a tree that tried to grow in barren soil to sustain an orchard that wasn't its own. Your energy was drained by a survival inheritance that no longer belongs to you. You are like a ship whose deck stayed still after the storm, but the engine still tries to run empty. If something inside you just sealed, if the image of that still deck fell into a place you can't explain, type the words, "I see," in the comments. Let recognition seal where it just landed. Type and come back to me. The solution isn't effort, it's return. It's softening the defensive posture you've held for years. Take a deep breath with me. Let it settle into the part of you that waited longest for this. If something in this message confirmed what your spirit already knew, let your like be your wordless amen. Not as a metric, but as an agreement that what was named here was named correctly. There's someone in your life who needs exactly this message now. Someone who has been trying harder than everyone around them. Someone who has grown quiet in a way no one can explain. Someone whose face just appeared in your mind as I spoke. Send this to that person, not as a recommendation, but as a delivery, a notice that the restriction is over. Before this ends, type the words, "I am the chosen one," in the comments. Not as a wish or a hope, but as a confirmation. The agreement forming in silence between heaven and your listening is an agreement you'll live from for the rest of this season. Type slowly. Let your fingers do what your spirit is already doing. Maybe you still don't have words for the sensation, but the judge has finally released what was held back from you for years. You've tried harder than those around you, yet the door seems locked. There's a clear reason for this. You felt waves of emotion with no apparent cause. Conversations that once felt natural now seem empty, and you notice repeating numbers in places with no logical connection. The exhaustion you feel isn't a lack of energy, it's calibration. The distance you've placed between yourself and old company isn't isolation, it's necessary alignment. It's the smallest agreement, but it's real. The pattern you operated for so long is one of insistence. You pulled ropes no longer tied to anything, confused exhaustion with loyalty, and showed up for audiences that were never paying attention. You behaved like a tree whose roots were forced to grow in barren soil, believing survival depended solely on your internal resistance. But what you called drought was only the preparation of the ground for a new season. The judge isn't judging your past, he is acknowledging your endurance. What was taken wasn't lost, it was stored in a place where external influence couldn't reach you. Let recognition seal where the truth just landed. Type and come back to me. The solution you seek doesn't require one more ounce of effort. What you call seeking is, in truth, a resistance to what is already available for your access. The harvest doesn't depend on the strength of your arms, but on the sensitivity of your spirit to recognize that the gate has been unlocked. What you call unlearning is merely the act of releasing the handle you held out of fear of being forgotten. The judge isn't there to measure your merit, but to sign the release of what was withheld by the inertia of prior years. It's not about gaining a new position, it's about occupying the space always designed for your measure. Take a deep breath with me. Let this idea of surrender settle where there was only demand for results. Your role now is that of steward of your own story, tending to what enters and leaves with a clarity once denied you. Let it not be a metric of audience, but a deep agreement that what was named here was named correctly, and that your journey has found a definitive turning point. Someone you observe and know has been striving more than anyone around them, someone carrying a silent exhaustion in their eyes from seeing the door stay shut, someone whose face just appeared in your mind as I spoke of the end of the wait. Send this to that person, not as a content recommendation, but as a delivery of a notice. Just as this revelation reached you by call, let it follow its natural flow to those still stuck in the same stage of transition. Not as a wish, not as a distant hope, but as an absolute confirmation. Type slowly, with the intention of one signing a life-changing document, letting your fingers do what your spirit is doing at this very instant. You've been carrying a weight that isn't yours, a doubt that drags across seasons, a question that echoes off your home's walls without finding an answer. There's an interruption in your story, a block maintained for years, but the judge has released what was withheld. What was locked has been freed. Stay here with me, for what I'll reveal will change how you see your own journey from now. Until the end, you'll recognize the signs appearing on your path and understand what they truly mean. You'll identify the single pattern that has kept doors closed. And above all, I'll deliver the key of reframing that will open your new time, exactly as promised. You've felt sudden waves of emotion with no apparent cause, haven't you? Conversations that once flowed now feel hollow, as if your spirit changed frequency, but people around you stayed on the same one. You've been waking at the same hour of the night, a silent invitation you can't explain. You sense something shifted in the atmosphere, even though your routine seems intact. It's the smallest agreement, but it's real. What's happening now is that you've been operating under a pattern of effort that no longer serves you. You've been pulling ropes not tied to anything. You confuse your loyalty with your exhaustion. You show up day after day for an audience that was never really paying attention. You've tried to harvest in soil whose rest time hasn't ended, and this insistence is what has caused your depletion, not a lack of merit. Imagine a tree that for years tried to deepen its roots in soil of stone and aridity. The tree wasn't sick, it was simply planted in a season that didn't match its purpose. You've been that tree. Your thirst isn't a lack of care. It's the sign that the soil has changed. What you lived through wasn't waste. It was the strengthening of your roots for the harvest now beginning. The wait wasn't punishment. It was the preparation of the ground where you will bloom. Type and come back to me. The solution isn't running faster or working double. The solution is return. It's the softening of your defensive stance. Stop carrying the shield where you should be carrying the harvest. Let the rigidity go. This is an invitation to release the rope you keep holding. You don't have to build what the judge has already delivered to you. You just have to be ready to receive when the door opens fully. Someone who has been striving more than everyone around them and sees the door stay shut day after day. Someone who has grown quiet in a way no one can explain, carrying an unnamed anguish. Send this to that person, not as a casual recommendation, but as a delivery of care. Just as this revelation reached you by signal, carry forward what was released, not as a wish nor a distant hope. Type as a final confirmation. Type slowly. You are committed to the truth just revealed. You are sent to harvest what the judge released. You are being led out of the aridity that was never yours. Right now, all over the world, others are receiving this same recognition, feeling the weight drop from their shoulders and vision becoming clear. You are part of something that doesn't announce itself with noise, and that is exactly why it is real. Attention! You need to prepare yourself now. I have prepared material for those who doubt their own calling from God and still do not have confirmation. Are you one of the chosen? We'll give you that clarity. These are the 7 signs of the language of the calling, marks of God in the story of every chosen one, so you can reread your story and recognize the purpose sealed over you before the foundation of the world. Stop calling coincidence what is actually a calling. Stop silencing the sacred restlessness. Stop postponing the answer you feel. Your window is closing, and a chosen one who does not recognize the calling does not walk in purpose. More than 10,000 people have already read the 7 signs and received the conviction they had been seeking for years. They were just like you. They felt something no one understood. They lived in silent doubt, and they discovered it was real. And it had a name. The offer is open only this month. Access the link in the pinned comment now before doubt steals another year from your calling.